consider what happened to manufacturing. Even the data today, what did we see? Manufacturing jobs. That's the sector that lost out. Construction was up a little bit. Manufacturing was down. Increasingly, it's the manufacturers in America that are under fire. And Kamala Harris is the one that said she was going to go out and ban fracking and this, that, and the other. She also wants the EV mandate. Remember that one? Even though the companies don't want the EVs. I mean, actual car companies are like, nope, we're out. Ford, Toyota, they're like, we're going to do the hybrids. We don't want to do EVs. So what's going to happen to her mandate? Because in 10 years, right, we were supposed to be nothing but EVs. She said she's not really for that anymore. Well, what are you for, lady? I think you're for whatever you think is going to work for you to get elected. And you're not willing to actually double down and talk about real stuff like Donald Trump is doing. My gosh, he's talking about a sovereign wealth fund based off of tariff revenue that whether or not this works. I mean, it's super interesting. I mean, you could maybe, and Rob and I can talk about this, you could create a sort of an infrastructure fund based off of tariffs that you're bringing in. A lot of people are like, oh, but you already have treasuries. But what if you earmarked that money differently and did some private partnerships with corporate America so that maybe they were running the roads and the airports? This is the innovative stuff that he's actually talking about that I don't think she even fundamentally grasps or understands. Here he is talking about tariffs and inflation and making a really good point while speaking at the Economic Club of New York.
Smart tariffs will not create inflation. They will combat inflation. I had almost no inflation, and I had the highest tariffs that anyone's seen, and they were going a lot higher. Foreign nations will pay us hundreds of billions of dollars, reducing the deficit and driving inflation down. It'll largely reduce our deficit. In my first term, we imposed historic tariffs with no effect on consumer prices or inflation. The anti-tariff people, many of them, I believe, honestly work for these other countries in some form, get tremendous amounts of lobbying money and other money because it doesn't make sense what they're saying. But we had no inflation, and we had protection, and I saved so many industries. I saved the steel industry. But Biden and Harris are letting it go. They're letting it go. It's so easy to keep. A combination of fair trade, tax cuts, regulatory cuts, and energy abundance will allow us to produce more goods better and cheaper right here in the USA than we've ever done before.
Wow. Right? I mean, really, really interesting talk. And the Sovereign Wealth Fund is fascinating. And at least this is somebody who's coming to the table with ideas that actually are grounded in something, rather than a whole bunch of hocus pocus, like, I'm going to fix the middle class, right? That's her line. This is good, guys. I got to show you this one because she went on again, that radio station. I think they're trying to just test her out here. They just want to say, okay, well, can she do a radio interview? Let's warm her up before she actually goes in for the big shindig. And I got to play this for you because it was amazing to me. This was sort of a layup for her to talk about her policy. And she doesn't have any. I mean, we know that, right? She doesn't have any because there's nothing on her website. Here she is.
And I'm glad you mentioned the middle class because they are the heartbeat of America. And yet many believe that everyone lives off of them and they get very, very little in return. But some are skeptical about the economic plan that you have put forth, and they say that it would result in higher taxes. How would you address those fears and reassure them about your approach?
No, actually, what it is going to do is, first of all, it is putting more money in the pockets of middle-class people. And I come from a middle-class background, unlike my opponent, who had a rich daddy who helped him start his career, and then he went bankrupt multiple times. I come from a middle-class background raised by a working mother who put all of her hard work into me and my sister Maya.
And look what we got for it. Inflation. Listen, she can say that, but the question was, how are you going to fix it? Why should people trust you? You can't come back with, well, I'm middle class and he's not. Because the middle class actually feel like he's looking out for them. And they feel like you're not, Kamala, which was exactly what that reporter said. In other words, this is not hard stuff, but if you don't have a plan, you don't have a plan. And thus, you're going to fall flat on your face come Tuesday. It's going to be tough for her. Like, I'm not kidding. And they can blame it on the microphones. They can blame it on the fact that she doesn't have her notes. They can blame it on the fact that she had to stand instead of sit. But the truth is that Kamala Harris is not prepared for this job. And she's not skilled enough in terms of understanding the economic policies that are at stake, as well as the foreign policies, et cetera, as well as the border policy, to really be able to argue her case. So it's bad.